Hi, everyone. This is Irum Jones here in Dallas on behalf of DPW, and I have the amazing, beautiful, smart, talented Miss Danielle, who's actually in Houston. Is that right?
That's
In the
right.
Houston area, and she is a DPW and an HPW member by default. And I'm so excited to have her here today because she's been busy, and not only busy doing her podcast, which is called Sister Talk, which spotlights all of these amazing nonprofits as well as women that are doing incredible things out there, women that you want to know about. So make sure you subscribe to that too. But we're not here to talk about her podcast. We're here to talk about what she's been busy working on. So Danielle, welcome. Can you tell
Thank
us
you.
what you've been working on? It's so exciting.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you so much for having me today. Hi, everyone. I have been working on many things, but one that I'm most proud of and what I'm going to be focusing all my attention to on tomorrow is my new book, Female Minority Report, and I'm so excited. So if you guys don't know about it already, here it is. I'm so proud of this book because I actually did the artwork. I took out time to think about the title. It had a different title at first.
Yeah.
And I just pretty much said, you know what, during this quarantine, I am going to turn my wheels, spin them, put some lubrication on it, and just do something that I've always wanted to do. And that's write a book.
That's amazing. Thank you for using your time so productively. And I can't believe you did the cover. I mean, you did cover to cover, basically.
Yes,
You did cover
yes.
to cover. So what inspired you to write the book? And then give us a clear title. What does it say over there? Read it out.
Okay, so I'll put it back on the air for you. It's Female Minority Report.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I'm super proud of this because I had no idea that I could even do this before I did it. But a few things that inspired me and kind of got me thinking, you know what, I think this kind of book is necessary is just thinking back on some of my experiences that I've had in corporate America. And, you know, being a corporate professional for over 10 years, it just kind of came to a head. As we all know, this year has been, oh my gosh, tumultuous. I mean, it's just been so much going on at one time, a pandemic, you know, riots, protests. There's just been, you know, police brutality towards innocent Black individuals right here that are citizens of this country. So I said to myself, you know, even before some of this happened, that I want to go ahead and finish what I've started. So I started writing this book last summer. And a few things that kind of sparked it was just some tension at work, you know, misunderstandings, miscommunications, and it just seemed like a reckless, endless cycle. And I said, am I the only person enduring this and having to deal with this every day? And I started to observe my surroundings and other people, and I started to realize that I was outcasted. It was only happening to me.
Wow.
So that's what inspired me. I said, you know, I need to get my experience out because there's so many other African American women who may be dealing with the same thing.
Wow. Okay. I mean, and you bring up so many important points. And, you know, I just want to echo that, you know, a lot of what we're seeing now has been happening, right? We know it's been happening. It's been happening for a long time. Now we just have cameras everywhere. We're easily able to share it. But it's definitely a problem for all people. And it's not just, you know, a Black issue, or it's a humanitarian issue. It's not a political issue. It's a humanitarian issue. Let's take care of our citizens and everyone that lives here. So I absolutely understand. And that DPW, HPW, we stand for that, for our diversity and inclusion commitment to that and making sure all voices are heard. So this is definitely not a topic that's taboo for us. This is actually something that brings us all together with a better understanding. And so what you wrote in your book, I feel like it's so transferable to all women because, you know, I'm not a Black woman, you know, at the end of the day, but I have some very, very sweet, you know, Black friends, you know, sisters there, and I can't imagine how they feel. I know the hurt and the pain that they communicate to me, but I'm not sitting in their shoes, so I don't know that. And this is really eye-opening for a lot of us because of the level of pain and the suffering that has been going on for so long. And we've been calling it silent suffering because we didn't realize that there was so much more in there. And so a book like yours helps kind of pause the situation and reframe it and go, I'm going to give you my perspective. I'm going to tell you what's happening here, and it really grasped our attention. So thank you for writing that, and then also being so vulnerable to share your experiences. And I'm sorry that you've you and so many other women, Black women, are going through this. I can't even say in the present tense because we haven't fixed it yet.
That's right. Yeah.
We're going through it, but as women, and especially women empowerment groups, right? We have to support all of our women there. It's just not enough to say, yes, read that book, now do something with it. So what is like some of your call to actions for us women? And is there a different call to action for Black women versus non-Black women?
There unfortunately is, because here's the sad reality in our country that we live in. When we say minority, one thinks that everyone's included that's non-white, right? But that's just not how it works here in this country. We as Black women, as African American women, we have to emphasize our struggle to a higher degree, because the reality is that we are every day competing for respect. Every day we're fighting for simple and respectful communication between our colleagues and our coworkers. And it's to a point where, if we've been dealing with this for God knows how long, since the 16th century, when will it truly end? And I think that how we can start reaching some form of solution, as opposed to always complaining or, being upset and being triggered, because those are human emotions and everyone's entitled to those. But I think now is a point where we need to start acknowledging. And I think this year has really opened that opportunity, that gate and that window for people of all races to see that, yes, when we say minority, we are talking about Asians, Hispanics, African Americans, people from, all walks of life. However, America would be, beyond comprehension to say that you don't see that African American people are struggling at a higher degree than any other nationality or race here in this country. So I should say race, because we're all American. That's one thing we need to be clear on. I've had this conversation before with other people. So we're all American, but we're not all from the same ethnicity, from the same race. And unfortunately, African American women and men are being sabotaged, or being treated with extreme savagery from not just our coworkers, from people that are here to serve and protect. Let's be honest. And we see this as evidence now, especially with our smartphones, with news reporting, a speed of lightning, right? We're able to see these things in real time, and it's disheartening to know that it's happening now. But imagine how much more it was happening in the past, when we didn't have access to these smartphone devices, when we couldn't see these Black men being hanged from trees, when we couldn't see this Black woman being raped by white men, because let's be fair about this as well, and not to dig too deep, but I need to go there because we're having an honest and transparent conversation. Even when it comes to the justice system, we see a disproportional rate of African American men being locked up for things that white men are just, white men are killing innocent Black men and women, and they're walking away free. That's a problem. And the fact that we're now seeing it, so now we don't have a choice other than to acknowledge. We have to acknowledge. We must acknowledge, because if we don't, then that means that we're ignoring the truth. And when we ignore the truth, how can we heal? How can we reach a solution? The cycle will never end. Mm-hmm. So my call to action is for people to read my book with honest evaluation and transparency of their true feelings towards African American people. Find out whether or not you yourself have an issue with us. And if you do, ask yourself why. Have you experienced anything negative with an African American man or woman? Ask yourself, were you bullied by somebody of African American descent? Mm-hmm. And did you have a rude encounter at the store? I don't know. There could be a number of experiences that you've had that I'm completely unaware of, but it would help you as a person that's reading that book to understand why you have this tension, why you have this bias towards people that skin color is dark, that's brown. Mm-hmm. And even within our own African American community, the issue of colorism it's ridiculous, and it's not a national problem. It's a global issue. Mm-hmm. And so that's my call to action, is to read my book with an open mind and evaluate self. find out what these issues are. Let's talk about it. Let's acknowledge it. Now let's try to fix it.
Absolutely. That's so deep. And I know that there's so much more that the book walks you through with solid examples, with, just those action items of you're reading it, but now I need you to check yourself. And your book definitely is not only part of it on the healing, how do we fix this? How do we prevent it from happening again? But it raises the awareness. Perhaps there are some biases. Perhaps there were things that we experience differently that have allowed us to distance ourselves from certain groups. And maybe it's not like in your example where you're saying, Black America and then, white America, maybe it's Asian America and some other culture, some other, so definitely when you're reading this book, read it with an open eyes, hearts, and, definitely open mind. And, don't forget to do, your research and take a look at, and you can always reach out to the author. And that's one of the things that I love about technology is if you do have a question, if there is a burning feeling inside of you and you want to get down to the bottom of it, you can always reach out to Danielle or other, diversity and inclusion experts that are out there. And you're not going to get ridiculed for it, right? Because we know we're reaching out to say, I want to make a change, or I see that this is a problem. How can I help? So coming forward and reading a book like this isn't an attack on anyone. It's not putting one group down more so than the other. This isn't a book that divides people up, and it's not a book that's made up. These are factual things that are occurring. Here's how it's impacting groups. Here's how it's impacting women, right? It's coming from a woman's standpoint. Here's how it's changing the trajectory of our families, of our home life. And you can only speak from a woman's perspective, right? So
absolutely. I'm so glad you touched on that, because I had a lot of friction with African American men who said, "Oh, here we go, the African American female narrative. What about us?" Well, here's the reality about that. I can only speak from my own experience. And this book entails a little bit of history about everyone, all races of women of color in general. But I definitely had to, in this interview, emphasize the African American struggle because it is real, whether people want to acknowledge it or not. But it just takes a little bit of research, dedication to understanding our history. That's key. For people to really realize that it is a real struggle for both men and women of African American descent. However, it does not take away, and I'll echo you, doesn't take away from any other minority race that is out there. We all have our challenges, we all have our struggles, but I can only speak and write from my own experience. But I assure you, everyone is represented in this book, and I believe represented well. And you guys can let me know by leaving me a review and let me know what you think,
Absolutely. And thank you again for just being so brave, because one thing that people don't realize is when you are writing a book, you are reliving everything all over again. And you are the entire time, especially when there's trauma involved, and with trauma, there is PTSD. There are all these things you have to relive those emotions. And so my heart goes out to you for one, having to live through it the first time, right? Then having to see it, and then taking the time to actually put it down on paper, which requires just tremendous amount of diligence to get through it in the middle of a pandemic, in the middle of all of these times of uncertainty. But it's definitely a book at the end of the day that brings everyone together, because someone can take something out of it and raise an awareness about where they are, and see if it applies to, for the reader out there, right? Does it apply to your work life? Does it apply to your social life? Take a look at your bubble. Take a look at your comfort bubble. Take a look at your own circles, right? If there are certain people you're not letting in, why? Have you ever broken bread with someone that doesn't look like you, talk like you, from the same part of town? So there's a lot of things of self-reflection there. And so we'll put some awesome links in addition to the link to the book, because I want you to tell us where we can go and purchase one.
Definitely.
Danielle is here. So Danielle, you're open to, if someone has a question, if you don't know the answer, you're going to point them to where it is or help navigate them through.
Sure. You guys can just go to femaleminorityReport.com. It has the link to purchase the book. Also, to learn a little bit more about me, you can get some of my history. And if you want to participate in some of the upcoming events, You can send me an email or sign up for the newsletter. So I definitely appreciate this opportunity to talk to you guys. Again, I just hope that you read the book with an open mind and make sure you leave a review so I'll know, because there will be more coming. I mean, this is a necessary topic. We have to address it now because America is just, right now we're going up in flames, literally, it feels like, but I know this is just a necessary, level that we have to reach in acknowledging the issues, all of them, not just the racial tensions, everything. And I think this is our first steps towards healing. I hope so.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And I think there's one last thing. I just got a text on this. So, is this book appropriate for teenagers or seniors or college students, just demographically? Like, is there an age limit? What do you think?
So here's my thing, ladies especially, because I know you guys have children, men too. I do have one bad word in this book, maybe two. But overall, I think that anybody over the age of 13 it's an easy read. It's definitely an easy read and okay. I don't know the word. I guess it's censored. You can read it without any filters. There's not any harsh language or anything like that. It's just vital information and ways to get you thinking about, especially for teenagers. I think it's probably the perfect time to read a book like this, because when you're at that age, you're not really thinking about anything, you're just having a great time and getting through life. But I think this would be a great start for any teenager from any culture to kind of dive in and understand a Black woman's perspective on working in corporate America. So that way, when they become workers in the field and in the industries, they will have an idea of what it's like when they run into someone that looks like me or like you, and they'll be able to better handle and address and communicate with respect to each other. We all will have a higher respect for each other when we learn more about each other and our cultures.
Oh, wonderfully said. Thank you so much, Danielle. Again, thank you. And we'll be posting that information in the link. So our DPW members and supporters and HPW, please take a look at this book, read it along, and we are going to have a follow-up blog post about it. So you definitely want to be a part of that as well. So again, thank you so much, Danielle.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Have a good one.
You
Thank
too.
you so much, ladies.
Bye.
Bye.